4 different agendas to go over. At 7:45, which is approximately 13 minutes, we have a public hearing on the modification to Airport Hazard Overlay District, and then we'll go back to our regular meeting. As far as the budget process, only speakers that sign up are able to speak. I mean, that's what we do at every committee meeting. Speakers come to the microphone, give us their name, address, any suggestions that they have for us. We won't be discussing any individual items. We'll listen to what you have to say. They'll be recorded, and all suggestions will be looked at for possible changes in the budget. This will be handled in a proactive, non-confrontational manner. We'll put the final budget number on the agenda at the next regular council meeting, which is March 12th. We'll leave that blank, and we'll fill that in right before we come out to the regular council meeting. Okay. What we're going to do tonight is the first committee will be Health, Safety, and Welfare, and Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. There are currently no items listed under the Health, Safety, and Welfare agenda. Are there any additional items?
No items? Okay. Hearing none.
Mr. Allen, I just wanted to mention one thing related to Health, Safety, and Welfare, and it's just to provide an update from something we mentioned at our last meeting. Since we had the benefit of the public here and we had the cameras. Just quickly, when the new high school opened, we discovered that some students primarily, were starting to park in the Oakhurst neighborhood area. And as we announced at the last meeting, we adopted the manager's 90-day provision to put up some no parking signs Monday through Friday in that area. To provide an update, those signs are now up. They prevent parking Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have also worked with the high school and understand that they've now issued additional parking passes to juniors in addition to seniors. So hopefully that was going to relieve some of the pressure. We've contacted, I walked around to the neighborhoods, to each of the homes that were affected and provided them with a flyer so that they were aware of what was taking place. And under our provision, the signs will remain in place for 90 days. At the end of that period, we will decide whether or not to continue them. I just wanted to make council aware that the feedback I am getting from most of the people in that neighborhood is that while they appreciate the effort and they're glad to see less parking and the fact that it's been eliminated, they would prefer to not have the signs continue after the 90 days. So we will welcome their continuing input and comments, but certainly if that's the preference of the people in the neighborhood and we think we can accommodate it, I'm going to suggest that that's the direction in which we go. But I just wanted to provide that update. Thank you.
Any other comments under the agenda? Hearing none, if we can turn to Public Works and Maintenance. Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. First item we have is ground maintenance contract 2012-2014, the bid tabulation. We all read the memo from Mr. Segrimis. We all looked at the bids. Bob's memo was well done, and it's a great point for Bob, and I understand all his information, and I think at this point in time, it's not about Bob's memo, because it is true, it's about a policy. What direction council wants to go with this. Is there any other comments?
For myself, I know the years that I've been up here, you know, and I know Bob's done work on it with his suggestions, but with the ground maintenances, there's certain parts of the municipality that we have an outside company that will come in and maintain the landscaping and so on. And I've actually maintained all along that I thought we could do it in-house, and I'm going to suggest that we continue to do it in-house.
You done?
Yep.
Sorry. Dawn?
It's not directly related to this item, but it's part of what we were provided. I just wanted to question it. The information we got said there's 27.5 inches of snow. Is that correct, or is that a typo?
I think it's 30.1 right now.
I'm glad I live up north. I didn't see all that snow, but that's fine.
A lot of those snow events actually occurred when people were sleeping, like last Friday night.
Okay. I was curious whether that's,
That's not the issue.
We're on grass cutting, ground maintenance contract 2012 and 14. Anybody have any more comments on that? Bill?
Yeah, I'd just like council to give one last consideration to accepting this contract. It is very cost effective. We have been reducing our workforce, as council knows, over the many years. We're doing less. We're doing more with less. It's a lot more cost effective to have a contractor come in here for $36,000 a year to do all the parks and all the traffic islands that are need to be done. I'm not sure the individual pays minimum wage to do it, but he has his own cadre of people that are paid and do a professional job. Bob got, I think, a really good competitive contract. It allows us to keep our focus on the road program, the environmental program, sign program, and to provide high quality maintenance of the parks and traffic islands at the lowest possible expense. So I think it's been effective for a lot of years. I'd like council to give one last consideration before we take action on this. And I agree with Bob. I strongly recommend accepting this contract.
Robert?
I have an additional question.
Okay, Robert?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think that this is a very cost-effective contract that we have. The price actually came in about $2,000 less than the previous contractor that was Brian Alsop. So I think from the standpoint of being cost-effective, it's a very cost-effective contract. The reality is that come spring, when the grass in the large municipal parks is growing like very, very rapidly, and in the small neighborhood parks that this contract takes care of, to get all of the ball fields prepared and all of the major municipal parks to have all that grass cut, we essentially take people from all of our departments in public works to be able to handle all that stuff. So if we were not to have this contract in place and we had to do that also with the existing workforce, which has actually been cut here about 6 months ago, we lost a position, so we've had a steady decrease in the number of people. I think we're going to be very hard-pressed to keep the same standards that we have for both the municipal parks and the ball fields and these small neighborhood parks. So, from the standpoint of the overall cost, it's about $36,000 a year, but there's a lot of things that get covered for that. And I think in an era where, we're trying to save money, it's a very, very cost-effective means of doing it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, I guess we'll take a vote to put it on the agenda. A consensus. Take a consensus to put it on the agenda on the regular meeting. If it doesn't make it, then we will further discussion on what we want to do with it. All right? Don? Sure. Jim?
No.
Jack?
No.
Paul?
Yes.
John? Yes? Lori? Jim?
Yes.
Okay, it's on the agenda.
Thank you, council.
Okay. The 2012 road program recommendations. Everyone got the book. We want to. We still got a few more minutes.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, Gene, you want to do an overview?
Basically, the logistical jobs, we went out and surveyed the roads like we do every year to see which ones are be put on the road program this year. What we've been doing in the last year or so, we've been working with the utility companies where they have been doing mainline projects for them, like the water company, the gas company, and we've been working with them. And a lot of the, as you can see, a few of the roads on the list this year are the ones that they actually did construction in last year. And I'm putting them on the list this year to do the paving part. What they do is they do give us some funding for their portion of the restoration they're required to do. And we use that money plus program money to do a nice paving job instead of only having half the street being paved or a quarter of the street being paved. So if you can see, there's a lot of, there's at least 6 or 7 streets that's included in this road program for those areas. Plus, every ward has a good bit on, a good bit amount, a good part of the budget to do paving, to do overlay, milling and overlays is basically what we're doing. A lot of milling and 2.5-inch overlays to make the roads last for a long time.
Okay, any councilman? Don?
Yes, if I understand what you submitted to us, it appears that we're not scheduling crack sealing unless we, is that true?
At this point, no. We'll see how the prices come in for the for this road program that I've set up, and if we have a little extra money in the budget, I probably will do crack sealing this year.
My question is, how big of a penalty is that?
It really isn't that big of a penalty. What I was looking at actually doing is maybe doing crack sealing every 3 to 4 years for like the past 5 years road programs. Go back and maybe get the center line cracks that have formed or a couple of trans. It doesn't have to be done every year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
I have a
Paul?
question. Gene, do you know offhand how many miles of municipal roads we have? Total miles of just municipal
Around
roads?
108, I think, something like that. Around 108.
180.
And we're doing, what, 32 miles of road
This year we're doing 4.81.
for the whole year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's 4% of our roads or so?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? I see,
Is that typical?
It's been around 3.5
4%?
to 4 miles of road
Okay.
in the last 3 or 4 years. And every year the price is going up. It's causing us to do less.
just for the general public in attendance tonight, the budgeted amount this year is $900,000. That basically does 4 miles of roads. So it doesn't sound like a lot of road for the money. Gene, I like the little information you put on there about upcoming estimates of repairs that we need. It's staggering, but it's realistic. Thank you for that. Any other comments on it? Okay, we'll put it on the agenda. Don? Jimmy?
Yep.
Oh, excuse me.
We just
It's just for a
proceed. We
test.
just-
This won't go on the agenda. What
Okay.
we're simply doing now is you approve the roads and the dollar amounts, and then we'll go out for bid. And
Okay.
then in the next committee meeting, we'll have the bids in here, and then that'll be approved.
Okay, anybody have any more questions? Talk to Gene. All right. Do we go into public hearing yet?
We'll just do the last one.
Do the
Wrap
last
it
one?
up.
Okay, wrap it up. Adoption of the county hazard plan, attachment resolution to be placed on the agenda. Anybody have a problem with it?
And that's just simply for reimbursement, Mark,
Okay.
through the county plan. I know staff has participated in some of the county programs, updating the program, working consistent with the county. So this is just a formality.
Okay. Place it on the agenda. Anybody have any additional items? That's all.
Okay.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right, at this time, if we can turn to our public hearing, February 27th, 2012, at about 7:40 6:47 p.m. Modification to Airport Hazard Overlay District. Mr. Spagnol, please call the roll.
Allen,
Here.
Dixon,
Here.
Givens,
Here.
Cannon,
Present.
Harrison,
Present.
McLean,
Here.
Bowery, O'Brien,
Present?
Pate.
Yep.
8 present. At this time, I'd like to turn to Jerry Duke to explain exactly what this public hearing is about. Mr. Duke.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Tonight's public hearing is, as you mentioned, is to take public comment regarding a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding the airport hazard zoning overlay district. Provided before council is proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance. This amendment also consists of a consideration of adoption of a supplementary airport overlay zoning map. The ordinance would amend the provisions currently in the code that regulates developments that may have an impact on the flight paths for aircrafts using the Allegheny County Airport. The map is to establish the boundary of the affected areas and is to accompany the text amendment. The ordinance is proposed to be amended is at the request of the Allegheny County Airport Authority and PennDOT. These two agencies are currently working with local municipalities to amend or create ordinances in order to be in compliance with current FAA requirements regarding interference with air travel to the area airports. Staff prepared a draft ordinance that was based upon a model ordinance provided by the Airport Authority. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the draft at their workshop meetings and made some minor modifications to the model ordinance, and at their January 11, 2012 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance. This public hearing was advertised in the February 9, 2012 and the February 16, 2012 South editions of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. A copy of the ordinance was also forwarded to the Allegheny County Office of Economic Development, and as of this date, no comments were received. Action on the proposed amendment is to be taken through the adoption of the ordinance, and the next possible date for council's action on this amendment would be March 12, 2012 at the regular meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. Any comments from council? Mr. Harrison.
I'd like Mr. Duke to tell us in the real world what impact does that have on the community?
Well, as you know, the airport in Allegheny County is located in West Mifflin. The northern portion of Bethel Park is located right in the flight path. There is a very large area. It extends practically from the airport all the way through Upper St. Clair, which is basically the approach areas. As the planes come in, there are certain requirements that the FAA requires to have on all tall structures, such as the red lights and the different strobes and such. What this does is actually make it even more restrictive, so to speak, for the planes or for development to occur in a very, very high manner. We are still pretty good distance away from the airport. In reality, it probably won't affect many buildings in Bethel Park. We have a height restriction of 75 feet with another 15 feet above it. We would have to have a structure anywhere from 400 to 600 feet in order to be really affected. So, in essence, we're complying with the county and the FAA, but in real terms, it probably won't affect much of any type of development in Bethel Park.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments from council? Hearing none, if we can turn to the proponents, that's the people that are for this proposed amendment. Come to the microphone, state your name, address. Hearing none and seeing none, if we can turn to opponents, people against the proposed amendment to this ordinance. Seeing no one and hearing no one.
Move we adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Now, since we're on planning and zoning, if we can turn to Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We only have one other item on planning and zoning tonight. That is the Fair Acres Plan of Lots, a major subdivision that was approved back in 2005, Jerry? Then reapproved a couple of years later because they failed to why don't you give us a rundown of it real briefly?
Yes, this affects a property that's located at basically the edge of the municipality near the Upper St. Clair, Peters Township, Bethel Park border, located near the If you're heading south on the right-hand side of McMurray Road near past Limestone Drive, it's also near Hayes Road in Peters Township. A plan has been approved for 35 or 28 homes in Upper St. Clair. The portion of the property that's in Bethel Park is not intended to be developed. However, we are being cut off, so it's being cut off and made into separate lots within Bethel Park. There's no plans to develop it. However, that land does occur in Bethel Park. The developer has been kind of sitting on the property for a number of years. It appears that they're moving forward to get approvals or have approvals in both Upper St. Clair and Bethel, or in Peters, and now they just need to get reaffirmation of the plan in Bethel Park. Again, as you mentioned, the plan was approved, originally submitted in 2001, approved in 2005, and reapproved in 2008. There's not been any changes to our ordinances or to the plans or whatever, so really there's no issues in reapproving it just so that they can get the plan on the books and get it recorded.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. So this is essentially just a reapproval of a plan that meets our ordinances, has already been approved twice in the past, and there should be no issues here. And all we're doing here tonight, we're not voting to approve this plan, we're simply agreeing to put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
That's correct. If there's any, the applicant knows, the property owner knows that it's being on the agendas or being discussed tonight. I don't see them here, but if they are, then, but again, it's reaffirmation of an action that's occurred twice already.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any problem putting this on the agenda for our next meeting? Okay. That's all we have under planning and zoning tonight, Mr. Allen.
Any other comments under planning and zoning? Okay, hearing none, we'll turn to general policy and finance. And before I turn it over to Mr. Hannon, we have two people sign up for public comments. The first one is, I believe it's Carol Harley. If you can come up to the, pardon me?
Hanley.
Okay. If you can come up to the microphone, state your name, address.
My name is Carol Hanley. I live at 5697 Willow Terrace Drive, Bethel Park. I came here tonight, first of all, to see if the tax increase has been rescinded. Can you answer that?
No, I stated at the beginning, we're taking comments. It'll be on the agenda March 12th, and at that time we'll, decide exactly what direction we're going. So not tonight, no.
Okay, so we'll hear an answer March the 12th then? Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Here at a council meeting? We'll
At our
know?
regular council meeting, correct.
Okay. I happened to have watched the last council meeting today, and I was very upset at what I heard on that. I feel like I was smeared as a person who went out to collect signatures to have this tax rescinded. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I'm an honest person. These, if I may approach you, are the pamphlets that we gave out to people that explain what our position is. It's all truthful. All the facts are there. Thank you. I heard a comment today that people were not explaining what the taxes were involved.
Thank you.
It was our Bethel Park property taxes, and we explained that to everybody that signed the petition. You're welcome. As volunteers, we had a passion for this, and we did what we thought was right. We live in a democracy. We elected you, of course, and we want you to do the very best you can, and we understand that it's difficult. But if we don't agree with things that you have passed, then we have the right to oppose them and to go out to the public and state our reasons, which is what we did. Somebody had said today that if we use scare tactics. If you read that, there's no scare tactics there. It's exactly what had happened. This was the scare tactics that was given out when I was at the library. And Jack Allen, you were standing there when these were given out. I don't know who put these together, but you were there. There was another man there while they were given out, and you were there. This is the scare tactics. And it says on this that we were going to discuss this January the 23rd. all of this, all the scare tactics, that you were going to cut garbage collection, cut community center hours, cut street lights, cut police services, cut snow routes, cut library support, cut road paving, cut the police cars, snow plows,
Point of order,
trucks,
Mr. Chairman.
and on and on and on. Pardon me?
She's addressing council. You don't address the audience. You address council, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't address all of you. Sorry. That's scare tactics, and it wasn't even discussed at that meeting because I was here. You know, when you smear a group, you smear me. You smear the whole group. We were honorable. We did what we thought was the right thing. And I have one thing to ask you, Don, although I'm not allowed to. Today when I was watching that, it said that you voted against this because you thought it wasn't high enough. Is that true?
Absolutely not. That's another part of the foolishness you have to put up with.
That is true.
Because I felt very betrayed. If that's true,
It is true.
then I felt that the whole movement was betrayed.
Mr. O'Brien saying it is true. I voted against that because I did my homework and decided we didn't need the increase. We put up $1 million in the reserve fund in the budget to start replenishing it because we used it up in the previous 3 years. And so, in my opinion, studying the budget, there was plenty of money there. We didn't need an increase in taxes, and I still don't think we need an increase in taxes.
Well, I mean, no disrespect to any of you. None of you. You've all been elected. You all support your districts. But, you know, it just seems like when the citizens are passionate, when times are tough, now we have our county assessments out. We have that to face. All of our taxes were raised in that, I'm sure. Everybody I talked to, their county taxes went up. You know, our intentions were good and honorable. And it's not right to smear. If some people gave misinformation that was incorrect, then that's on them. But it certainly wasn't this organization. We tried the hardest we could to get this to be rescinded. And people were appreciative to us, thankful to us for all of the information. And I hope that March the 12th, that it's rescinded. Thank you.
Just for the record, we had our regular committee meeting in January in the council chambers here also. And the reason that we did that is so the tax petition committee and concerned residents and what have you were going to come to the microphone and suggest different things that we needed to do, take items out of the budget. We didn't get any of that. That's why we're doing it again tonight. So that's what we want to hear from the people. I mean, you know, people disagree all the time. That could be, you know, at a different meeting or whatever. But the reason we're having this meeting tonight is for citizens to come up and say, why do we need to do this? Can't we cut this out? Look at this. That's the purpose of the meeting tonight, as it was in January. The next person, and I forgive me for the last name, Elaine. I didn't even want to try because it screwed
Don't
it
feel
up.
bad, I can't read my own writing. I went to Catholic schools and make N's, R's, and V's all the same. My name's Elaine Burr. I live at 55 Highland Road. I happen to be president of a homeowners association of 102 households, and I think I'm speaking for most of them. And I guess I'm trying to figure out what's really going on. I read in the paper a while back, the first thing I read was you were proposing a 34% increase in taxes. The next thing I read was somebody found $1.3 million someplace, which would basically eliminate the need for that 34% tax increase. And then I heard about this petition going around to try to ask council to either rescind or reconsider or do something about this proposed increase. And now I'm hearing that the municipal staff is recommending that the 34% increase not be rescinded. So what is really going on? Are you proposing a 34% tax increase? Where's the 1.3 million that was this windfall supposedly that was found? At least that's the impression I got from reading the paper. And that's my question. And I think, like I said, I represent most of the people in our complex, some more of whom are here. But we don't appreciate knowing what you're all thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, staff actually did recommend that that we got in our mail last Thursday evening, and that's something that, you know, we will discuss. It doesn't mean that that's going to happen or what have you, so.
Excuse me.
Well, did you find 1.3 million someplace? Yes.
There was a wreck or a fire.
Excuse me.
I was late getting here, so I couldn't.
That's fine, you'll be able to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Bello.
Yes.
Her question answered. Her question wasn't answered. She's ex-counsel, she deserves an answer.
Excuse me. Your question?
Yeah, my question was, do we have a $1.3 million windfall, and where is it, and what are we using it for?
Mr. Ramita?
Yeah, I can address that. The $1.3 million that was discussed at the January meeting, that money was the result of the end of year financial results. So we project a certain amount where we're going to end the year with revenues and expenditures. When we got to the end of the year, we realized that there was a certain amount of revenues in addition to what we had projected, and savings from the amount of expenditures that we projected. When you total the two together, it's an additional $1.3 million that wasn't projected. It's not exactly found money, but it's just the experience of our financial results at the end of the year. So yes, when we ended the 2011 financial year, we did have an additional $1.3 million that was not anticipated.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Allen?
Mr. McLean?
The one clarification on, I think, what Mr. Romito said I'd like to provide is, and this points up something that we've mentioned before in these meetings and that I think we need as a council to look at, and that's the timing of the process by which we do our budget. What Mr. Romito is referring to is that we initially get our budget information in August of every year. Well, obviously, in terms of the actual results, it can only go through that time of the year, about July. So there's a lot more months to come in which we're still collecting revenue and possibly enjoying some savings on some things that are occurring through the rest of the year. Nevertheless, when we look at a budget, staff has to make projections, and what Mr. Romito is pointing out is that those projections were made when we got this information in August, but it turned out the revenue did better over the remaining months than we had projected, and the expenses did better than we had projected. That's generally good news, but it's more a reflection of our budgeting process. We've mentioned before, and I think we need to look seriously at changing that timing so that we're dealing with more real-time numbers when we're looking at our budget. And that should avoid at least some of this issue of trying to guess at what the ultimate revenue and expenses might be. But that's really what happened. So when Mr. Marino said it wasn't found money, it wasn't like something that was overlooked, or it wasn't something that just dropped out of the sky that we didn't think about. It was just the natural way in which things occur over the course of the year. But I think what it points up is we do this whole thing a little too early. And when you do it too early, you have to engage in a little bit more guesswork, and I'd like to get to a process where we reduce some of that guesswork so we can avoid some of this anxiety that I think we create when we think we need to project an increase, and it turns out that maybe we don't at that same level when we get to the end. But that's why what happened here wasn't found money in terms of just arrived one day. It was just the way in which the year played out, and it was something that was different than what was expected by us at the time. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Sure. You come up to the microphone, please, since it's being recorded. Thank you.
Well, with that then, I guess the article that I read in the paper about this 1.3 million sort of indicated that some of this 34% proposed increase could be eliminated. Is that true?
That's exactly the question that we have before us and that we're looking at. Staff has given a recommendation. That doesn't mean we will accept it, but it's something that we need to look at. But the very question you're posing, which is, now that we know what the year-end results were, where are we in terms of, do we need to have an increase at that level? Do we need to have an increase at all? Or if we do need to have an increase, can it be in a lesser amount? That's the very question that we are currently considering, taking comment on, and then we'll vote on in March.
So you'll vote on that at the March meeting?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Harrison?
Mr. Murray, from the seat you're sitting in at the January meeting, indicated that we trust our finance officer, but that we wanted to see what the auditor had to say about that 1.3 million. Now that Mr. Remiro has the microphone, don't put it up. Maybe he can tell us what the auditor had to say.
Yeah, Mr. Harrison, the auditors were in for a good chunk of February. We asked them specifically look at this information, but they proceeded with their procedures as they normally do. The preliminary draft numbers that we have, and understand that the financial numbers aren't due to the state until the end of March. So we are dealing still with a preliminary draft, but at this point, it's pretty solid numbers. If there's any changes between now and the end of March, they'd be minor, but they're comfortable with the numbers that I reported in January.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Dixon?
I just wanted to make a couple of points actually of clarification. The lady was up a few minutes ago talking with the brochure that was passed out, and I saw the white pamphlet that was passed out. I only saw that once early on, but I think the items that were listed on there were items listed as under discussion. When we went through the budgeting process, we talked about things like removing garbage collection from the budget, and then it would have to be paid for separately. We decided to keep it in the budget, but we never talked about cutting garbage collection. It was just, do we want to pay for it in the budget and have it included in your tax rate, or should we take it out of the budget? We spend about 1.2 million, I think, Mr. Spagna?
1.7.
1.2 million. Okay, I only saw that once early on, so I don't know exactly what's in it. Under consideration, though, it seems to me at the top it said that these are the items under consideration or under discussion. Nonetheless, we talked about what to do with those items in an effort to reduce the budget. And we could have balanced the budget by taking garbage collection out of the budget, and then you just have to pay for it separately. Would have been about $180 a year per household. We decided not to do that. We had Public Works cutting snow plow routes. We had talked about how much we could cut. We eliminated a position in Public Works. That wasn't a scare tactic. We actually did eliminate a position, and we talked about how many more positions we'd have to eliminate if we wanted to reduce the budget further. We eliminated a position in the police department. Those were things that were just simply under discussion for items to be cut from the budget, and we decided when we passed the budget that we didn't want to cut those things, that we thought that it would be detrimental to the services that we provide to the residents of Bethel Park. If the residents of Bethel Park want to reduce those things, then we're certainly open to that conversation. One of the things that we talked about at the meeting in December was that we were going to have our normal committee meetings on January 23rd, and that we would have the budget meeting out here in council chambers, and we'd televise it, because the petition committee wanted to bring us a list of items that they thought we could cut. So we held the meeting out here on January 23rd, and I remember specifically Mrs. Gibbons, for example, mentioning that the budget was available for viewing in the library. Please review the budget and bring good, solid suggestions to the meeting on the 23rd. And we implored the residents to give us their ideas in terms of what we can cut further from the budget that we hadn't already cut. And at the meeting on the 23rd, nobody had any suggestions for budget cuts. So I wanted to ask if you did indeed have these suggested budget cuts, we're still open for that. We'll still cut the budget if we find good quality budget cuts that aren't going to reduce the level of service that the people in Bethel Park are used to. But we've cut a lot out already, and we're willing to cut more. If you have some ideas, please present them to us. We can do that here tonight.
May I talk?
I'm not the chairman.
He has the floor.
So that's what I wanted to say. We got no suggestions on the 23rd, and we thought we were going to have that meeting to hear suggestions. So I'm saying if you have ideas on ways to cut this budget, even if we do have $1.3 million that we generated in the fourth quarter that we weren't expecting, we're still willing to cut the budget. I mean, that's a good thing. So let's hear those ideas.
Mr. Hannon? Oh.
Yeah, one of the things that, because of the way the petition committee, the timing, the county elections bureau that deals with putting things on the ballot, all these things have a play. Just because, let's say, for instance, everything works the way the petition committee wants, they get their signatures, they're verified by the manager, the timing of the filing of the petition with the manager, the original petition, would have put us not on the primary ballot, because this is a presidential election year, the primary ballot's not in May, it's in April. It would have put us on the November ballot. So under the Home Rule Charter, let's follow this through, that we have to, let's say it gets on the ballot and the voters of Bethel Park say, yeah, we don't want this increase on our taxes, okay? So we're already in November of 2012. We would have to cut $1.2 million with a month and a half left in the year. So the reason all those items, those big ticket items, are mentioned as possibilities for discussion is because the way the system works and the way that the clock works on all these things, in order for us to have any realm of reasonability, we'd have to cut in April, start cutting in April the $1.2 million. We couldn't start cutting in November because by that time all the money's gone. So the way it works out, even though you think that you're putting something on the primary ballot, it's actually going on the November ballot, and by that time 11/12 of the year's gone. That's what really drove this thing a little bit haywire. Is if everything worked on the primary, that's a different situation, but we would have to make the cuts in order to comply with the will of the people, which we as a council are sworn to do. We would have to do that starting in April, cutting that large amount. That's why the issue with those large ticket items, converting a garbage fee out of the tax base and into a fee structure, billing each individual home. Those kind of things, taking it out of the property tax, as has been forever in Bethel Park. That's why those things you had to be looked at, because there's only so many ways of generating that much cut that could possibly happen. And we had to deal with the realm of possibilities. Even though it may or may not happen, we still had to act as if it did happen, because come November 15th, we would have had to make the cuts. And the money's already spent. How do you make the cuts and the money's already spent? You can't do it. So you have to cut it in April. That's why all those things were being thrashed about at the same time to be considered. Because it's not because we wanted to make those cuts, we wanted to make people upset, is because the way the petition was filed the way the County Elections Bureau needs so many days before an election before they'll accept a ballot question, we were behind the 8 ball. We had to do something in case this thing would, if everything worked out according to the schedule, we would have to comply with that. And who knows what will happen then. That's the reason. The whole schedule working out is why those things had to be considered immediately, not wait to see how the vote went and see how the petition went. Everything had to be done because you can't wait till November in case it happens. Then what are you going to do? Oh, we don't have any money left. We can't comply. That's not good government. That's not complying with the will of the people. We had to take a look at the system, the way it was dealt to us. That's how we looked at it.
Mr. O'Brien.
The items on that list, and I haven't seen the paper, they were already discussed. I mean, when we were looking at in August, this is what we were down to. That list that you see on there is very realistic. Where do we go? We're $1.2 million short. Where do we go? This is where we're at in the budget. So all those items on that list are realistic. They very much are. Maybe portions of the list, maybe it'll be all a decision of council. And we went through all that list, and the majority of council agreed that they were part of services that are essential and people really enjoyed in this town. So we had, we had a generous fourth quarter, almost a benefit that it came in. But if it didn't come in, and we were 1.3 million short, and the petition committee filed, we would have had to seriously consider those unless we had other options. And that's why we were here on the 23rd, because everyone said, hey, we have a better way. Well, that's where we are after we studied the budget. And they're serious cuts, and we take them serious. And they hurt. You know, snow routes, police, I mean, it's all there. It's real. And, you know, we're talking about the 1.3. It happens some years it doesn't. But some of them numbers are fixed. So they may not happen next year. So when you deal with earned income, it's kind of an unknown. If the community does well and people are working and their wages are up, well, earned income's up. Other communities base a lot of their revenue off of real estate. And that real estate is fixed. And whether you're making money or not, you got to pay. So that's kind of fluctuates. So that's what we're kind of dealing with. So as for that list, yeah, that list is real. Yeah, that list has been discussed. Yeah, that list is kind of tough. But we were willing to make that decision if, in fact, the petition committee and the money wasn't, the revenues didn't come in. We were prepared to make those decisions. And we wanted the people of this town to know that their services would change if we made those decisions. Thank you.
Can I explain why I didn't get here to sign up?
Just come to the microphone.
We had fire engines and police cars that kept me away half an hour on Bethel Church Road. That's why I didn't get a chance to get here. So I apologize for that. You can check that out, Chief. But while I do that, let me walk over and give you guys something. I don't walk too fast. I have a balance problem, so I'll do the best that I can. Okay, this is one for each of you guys up here. And if you can help me out, I've got one for all you guys up here. And I got to explain something over here. I got to let you hear this. In about a week, it'll be 4 years since I lost my wife. She's buried in Bethel Cemetery. We're Bethel people, through and through.
Excuse me. You know, you need to speak into the
I
mic.
understand. I talk pretty loud. I want you to hear this, and I don't want to put it on the microphone. I gave this to my wife for Valentine's Day 4 years ago. I gave this to Kay. This was the love of my life. And she's the one that gave me the courage to be here and talk to you people. And if you look on there, I addressed something, but I think you've heard what you need to hear on. I'm just going to lay it down for a minute. And then I'm going to walk over here. And again, I apologize. I'll pick that up in a little bit. And if you would mind taking a dozen of these and passing them down here. I've done my homework. And I'll read this over to you in case some of you don't read too well or my glasses aren't on too well. I also included in here Mayor Morton and our manager, Bill Spagman, in there. So I addressed all you guys. Great enough, I've got plenty of those here. I think this will answer a lot of your questions.
Can you use the microphone? Otherwise it won't be recorded.
That's all right. I apologize that I don't have the fitness that I used to have a few years ago, but I'll do my best. Okay, my name is Dino Bello. I've lived in Bethel Park 40-some years. My sons graduated from Bethel High School. They went through the whole school system. All my grandchildren are in the Bethel school system. And I buried my wife in Bethel Cemetery. So Kay can hear me say this. And that's got a lot to do with what's on here. I got to put my glasses on, but I want to read this off to you. But there's some nice pieces in here. And in here, there's articles that talks about that $1.3 million and that $1.4 million. And I can explain it. It's on record, and reporters got it. I got it. You guys didn't get it. I got it. Now let me explain something to you guys. The assessments just came out. I got mine, and it's broken into two parts: land and buildings. With the land, some of it's went up 400-800% in the city. They're just starting to do assessments out this way. They're coming out, my land went up over 100%. My building went up a good bit too. And the county probably did you guys a nice favor because they rated that assessment. If you look on in there, and Jimmy, you know that because I gave you a copy of it at the polls. And it says on there, there's going to be an assessment in a few months. And I called it right, didn't I? Look at it, there's a copy of it. And I typed it right below the article in there. And I said, you're going to get, and this is a windfall to you guys. You guys are going to get a ton of money coming in.
We're not allowed to.
You're going to get a ton of money coming in.
Not allowed to take.
Beg pardon?
You only can take 5%.
There's a 5% windfall state law, Dino.
Well, I understand that.
Can't.
But that's going to take care of you.
No,
it's going to take
it's
care of you
not.
real good.
Only
Real good.
5%.
I know how to do the numbers too. And there's a cap on there. But you got a windfall coming there, and you don't need to go ahead with that 34% increase that you're on Bethel only. Now, I've been flooded with people because if this is being televised, you know, they'll hear me over here in Bethel, but I'm getting calls from Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Peters, all over. This is really big business. People are concerned. And I made the statement, and I made it to you a couple of times on there. I've been quoted on there, I think, in some of those articles that says it. When you call these people up, when I was walking the streets, and I only lost that election by a few votes. It wasn't that bad, and I know why I lost it. It was my own fault. I called all the people on there, Democrats included, which I should have stuck with my base, and you wouldn't have been sitting there. But that's not the problem. The problem is that you are there, and you're a good guy. I have no problems with you. But you got a windfall coming over there with that assessment. See, there's two ways of raising money and raising your taxes. It isn't just raising the millage. That's just half of it. When you do the reevaluation and what they're doing right now, that is a tax increase. That is a tax increase. And so what I did over here is I addressed this letter to Mayor Morton, who isn't here right now. I address it to you, Mr. Spagnol, and to all you council people. I wanted you to see this. And what I'm saying to you is that my wife is talking to me right now. I talked to her last night when I prayed. And I could hear her. And she told me, Dino, be brave, be bold, be strong, and be honest, and do the right thing. Dino Bello always has his whole life done the right thing. I'll do it now. I did it by playing it out for you guys. It's all spelled out to you. I don't know this by heart, and this wasn't written by a ghost writer. Wrote this myself last night. I rewrote it about 7 or 8 times this morning with my secretary. And it tells you exactly what we got to do. And I took the high road. And I even told this to our mayor. I saw Cliff over at the what do you call it? That track, that thing right behind the Walmart over here, or Walgreens over here. I've seen you there.
Health Tracks.
Health Tracks, that's it. And all I know is that you're going to get a lot of money that's going to fall out of the sky to you. You can only go up so much on it. I understand that. But that'll take care of you. If you do it now, our people are going to get sucker punched. Because if you go with your increase and the reassessment, then you're sucker punching these people. When I call these people on the phone and I asked them what their main concern was, they says, Mr. Bello, I'm going to lose my house. Now, maybe to a lot of people, a couple of $100, $50, whatever in the heck it is, don't mean nothing to them. I'm going to lose my house. I got to choose between whether I take my medication or I eat tomorrow. That's sad, and they were crying. They were crying. If you don't think that's true, it is true, folks. It is true. You've got poor people here right in Bethel Park, and that's what I'm looking out for. Now, maybe you don't think about them, but I sure as hell do. Excuse the language, but I do. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to get a windfall of money with that reassessment. And it's a lot more than you think it is. And these people don't want to leave Bethel Park. I've lived here all my life, Mr. Bello. What can you do for me? I says, I'm not even on council. These people don't want to hear that. All they want to hear about is, gee whiz, we could have put a fee on the garbage. When your assessment goes up, you bring the assessment up on the industrial parks. You bring it on the commercial properties too. You know, it isn't all that. You got a windfall coming all around you, and you know it, and I know it, and we can't kid ourselves, and you can't kid the public. You can fool them. All the people, some of the time, some of the people, part of the time, but you ain't gonna fool all of them all the time. I'm telling you that, guys. Think about it. You don't need that assessment and that increase because you're getting it in your assessment. You're getting this in your assessment. Don't sell our citizens short. It ain't just the senior citizens that are in trouble. It's the young families with kids looking at their Christmas bills coming at them right now, wondering, what in the world can I do? Mr. Bello, why don't you run for mayor? I don't want to run for mayor. I said, well, why don't you move in my ward? You know, right now, I can go in any ward and rent a house or buy a house or rent my house or whatever I want to do, and you'll have competition somewhere. I'm going to guarantee you that. It's not as simple as you think, guys. It's a serious world out there. You do not need that increase. I took the high road, and I called it out, and we had enough petitions signed and notarized that we could have went and definitely put it on the ballot. I didn't want to do it. I took the high road. I like to see you guys be the people I think you could be, used to be, and do it too. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell our public short. You don't need that increase. You're going to get it with your assessments. It's coming. And you got it, and you got it, and it's going to take care of you. That's all I got to say. I'll hang around if anybody's got any questions for me. I'll debate any of you one-on-one anytime you want to, but I don't like it when you want to bring your wingman along. I think you came to one of the council meetings, not council meeting, one of the Republican Party meetings, and you had to have a wingman along with you. I don't have a wingman here with me. I'm here by myself. I'm here by
Well, I
myself.
think the person that came with me was also a member of the committee, so I think you
Yeah,
ought to
you
do
see it
that.
twice. Well, I apologize for that, but thank you for the opportunity to at least saying my piece. You don't need that increase. Think about it. Think of those people out there that are hurting, and they're hurting bad, guys. They don't want to leave this community because it's a good community. I agree with them. But you're the only ones now that have the power of doing anything about it. I don't. I've said my piece, and thank you.
So continue general policy and find, yeah, Jim?
Okay,
We're not off the tax yet, are we? You going to talk about the?
no, but when you get to it, we're going to do the agenda.
Go ahead.
As far as
Let
the
people speak.
first item on the agenda for general policy and finance is a resolution for the, at the request of the county executive to put on to vote on for us in opposition of the court-ordered property assessments. Any discussion from council on this item? Mr. Harris.
I'd like for somebody to explain to me what the advantage is. What's the advantage going to be gained if, as I understand it, people are saying, well, we ought to wait until the state mandates that the assessment process is the same over the state. Is that your understanding? I don't. It seems to me that if this one doesn't stand, they're going to do whatever and do it again.
I think, Don, I think what's happening here is the attempt to try to show a unified voice from the makeup of the county that the way Allegheny County has this time and the previous time under the reassessments has really gotten the short end of the stick because of it puts the county and the residents and the property owners in it at a competitive disadvantage than our surrounding counties, because as we all know, Butler County, Washington County, Westmoreland County haven't had reassessments in decades. And I think because some school district can file a lawsuit and get to a county judge that says, oh yeah, that's a good idea, let's order a countywide assessment, that they take the rule of law by the courts. And instead of going through the legislative process and going with elected officials, elected people that you send to Harrisburg to make those decisions for you as your representatives, that some judge who was probably retained 10 years ago and is maybe in retired status but brought out of the cupboard to do this kind of thing because no one else would touch the case because they're afraid of missing the next retention election, that we end up with a situation where we have court-ordered assessments that drive us in a non-competitive situation. I think the benefit to Bethel Park is to put us on the record saying, this has got to stop. It's all of Pennsylvania or it's nothing. I think that's the point.
Well, I'll just consider the whole discussion before we got to this is about money, taxes, and that type thing. I don't know how much money was spent on this reassessment, but I know this, that if it's done away with, then sometime we're going to have a reassessment. We're going to spend money and probably more in the future, and I just think that we have to consider that.
Well, those are things we don't have control over. Some states, they're done by the state capitals do. I mean, they're done through the county control, but it's done in different places in different ways. So to say it has to stay the same is, who knows? But I think the change has to be made. I think that's the point, that were dissatisfied as a group of people with the situation that we were in. And it's not fair to the people that as Dino said, the young people that's starting out and the older people that are on a relatively fixed income that may see their Social Security go up $10 a year. I mean, those kind of things. It's tough. It's tough to keep. Everybody says, well, we want to keep people in their houses as long as they can. Well, you got to put something behind that. I think this is what this tries to do. It's just my opinion. Jim.
There's one aspect of this, too, that has some, I think, particular impact on our community because we are located right on the border with another county. Right. The way you have to think about this is when we're ordered in Allegheny County to redo the assessments, that hits our town directly. It means all your houses get increased in assessment. It means the businesses that want to locate here, their assessments get increased. Now, when you go to sell your house and there's a house down in Washington County just a few miles down the road that hasn't been reassessed in 40 or 50 years, that might make a big difference to somebody who's looking to buy your house. And it may make it harder for you to sell your house. And that's why in this community in particular, this has a bigger impact than it might if we were located in the middle of Allegheny County. So it has an impact. Same thing with locating businesses. When someone's thinking about locating a business, they're going to start thinking about Washington County, and they're not going to be thinking about Bethel Park because they're going to say, well, these assessments are higher, I have to pay more taxes. So this is really about trying to level the playing field across all the counties in Pennsylvania, because right now we've been singled out. Of all the counties in Pennsylvania, we're the only one who's had to go through a reassessment. So this is us taking the position that we just don't like that. And we think the legislature should address it and do something about it. And we're going on record as saying that's what we think.
Is there a problem to address them with the state to fight inequity?
That's exactly what this resolution is about. We're proposing tonight to put this on the agenda so that we can vote on it, but this would be an agenda that says this isn't right, and to the legislature, you should take it up and try to see what you can do about it.
Jim, is this time sensitive? I mean, can we
Or
vote
does it
on
have
this?
to be? Does it have to be voted on tonight?
Can't
No,
vote tonight.
well, it just needs to put on the agenda. Actually, just put on the agenda. So anybody opposed to putting on the agenda?
In addition to all this, that you probably know, you just got hit with the 21% county. So if your county tax was $400, you're going to pay another $80. My concern is, of that money, how much is coming back to Bethel Park? Or is it staying in Pittsburgh to bail out the unions, Port Authority Transit, school district, etc.? That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Next item is the discussion on the municipal budget.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen? Or Mr. Hannon? I'll just say it first, and then I'll get into what I want to say, is that Mr. Hannon's up here, in my vernacular, railing about the tax petition committee and that type thing. And what he's ignoring is that the process that was followed is in accordance with the law of Bethel Park. And he wrote a rather nasty email trashing the tax petition committee because of the way they handled it. And my comment to him would be, the law is the law. If you don't like the law, work on getting it changed. As long as it's the law, you have to live with it. But what I wanted to say, I think the frustration that the people here feel, and I share it, is the process. Let's just follow the process as how we got here tonight. The council ultimately approved an ordinance in November which increased the real estate tax 14.4%. That was challenged by the Tax Petition Committee, which is in accordance with the Home Rule Charter. But come January, the finance officer reported, and that 14.4 is worth about $1.4 million. the finance officer reported to us that there's a $1.3 million more than was anticipated, and he authenticated tonight that that number is fairly substantial, that the auditors, although they haven't completed their task, says so. So we were told, the council and the public was told, that the 14.4% increase in real estate tax was sufficient so that all of the essential services would be maintained. There would be no cut in the essential services if the 14.4 was approved. Then we come along, as I say, in January, being told there's $1.3 million additional and authenticated tonight that that's probably true. So that compensates for the money that Bethel Park would collect if the ordinance passed November stayed in place. In Thursday's mail, we get a message from the municipality, and I was told by the finance officer that he and the assistant finance officer and the manager says that's the way to go, that we should not rescind that ordinance. So the people that were here in January and listened to the finance officer said that we had a 1.3 million more, and we'd been told that that amount of money was enough to maintain the services at the level they are now, went away with the, and I, like I say, I'm part of it, went away with the expectation that now that that money's there, we don't need the increase in real estate tax. Now we get a letter saying, well, let's don't rescind that ordinance. It's sort of like double dipping, and that's obviously frustrating. So I just wanted to go through the scenario and say that I would dearly hope that this council does in fact rescind that ordinance, because the public have been told that we can maintain the essential services to the community if we have that amount of money, and the finance officer saying we have that amount of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Steve Bronco, 5962 Irishtown Road. I was here last month, and I don't have the exact wording, but I challenged all of you to give me a call to see what we could do to cut some of the budget. And I didn't receive any phone calls from you. So I'll do it again. Here's my cell phone, 412-519-2690. Give me a call.
Do it right now.
Okay.
The purpose of these two meetings.
I understand what the purpose is.
Well, I don't think anybody does. That's what
No,
I
I think everyone's bitter. Everyone's upset.
No one's upset.
No.
Who's upset?
Well,
Not
then,
right now.
Okay?
Excuse me. Continue.
Okay. I look at this Save Bethel Park garbage, okay? And I look down on the background. Listed below are recommendations made by the Tax Petition Committee members since September 1st to eliminate tax increase. And it says Dino Bello, Dave Carr, Tom Olson, Robert Ray, Joan Hirsch, and Don Harrison. And next to it, it says none, okay? Well, I went back and I talked to my friends, okay? And I consider them friends. They brought me into this thing because I believe in it. I believe you guys can cut the budget more, okay? But none of them were ever questioned about this. And the biggest thing I have is, does anyone want to come up and say, who wrote it? Who wrote it? Anybody? Anybody here want to admit it? You sit here, you browbeat him, okay? He believes in a cause. You don't browbeat him. He has his opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. But you don't sit here and chastise someone on television. That's wrong. That is wrong. Does anyone have the guts on council to tell me who wrote it? Anyone? Okay, I'm not done. I'm not done. It's disappointing that you guys can't find enough things in the budget to cut. Okay? I don't have the budget in front of me. I was going to steal it from the library, but I'd probably get caught and go to jail, so I didn't want to do that today. One of the things I did look at was $70,000 allotted for the Miners Field repaving. All the new trucks that you guys wanted. Your new loaders. You know, I do my homework. And I also found a mechanic who worked on your loader and didn't think your loader was all that bad. Okay? I worked my butt off to get signatures, and when they said stop, I believed in them. I believed in this council that they would find a way to make it work. Okay? And I just find it so disheartening that no one will sit and claim this. So this just miraculously appeared, you know? And that's lame, you know? I've lived here 18 years, and I've looked at my taxes go up and up and up and up. And I said to my wife, "Hun, we're leaving. Let's go to Washington County." She goes, "Who's going to buy our house? Who's going to buy our house?" And she's absolutely right. You have people on fixed incomes. You have people on low incomes. Dino's right. People, are they going to eat? Are they going to take their medicine? Or what are they going to do? Okay, you guys are empowered by us. We bring you in here and say, do the right thing, guys. And I don't think you're listening. Okay? Do we really need a $70,000 repaving of Miners Field? Who's been there in the last month? Who's been there in the last month? I have. I play softball with my kids. Well, I'm asking you, Mr. Allen, when's the last time you were there?
Past month? I don't know.
Okay, what condition was it in? Is it in that bad a condition? Yes or no? It's a simple question. I'm asking you.
I don't
You
know.
were there a month ago.
No, I went past it. I don't know.
Who's been there in the last? Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, I've been there.
Okay. What condition is it in, Mr. O'Brien?
It's in fair condition.
Fair condition.
It's been rescheduled to be repaved.
Could it go?
I'm talking now.
Very good, sir. Very good. Touche.
It's been scheduled. We discussed it, and this council elected to do it, including Mr. Harrison voted to keep it.
Okay, you're right. You're right. But I just want to throw.
It was on the table.
But is it a want or a need? When you wanted to get all those new trucks for Public Works, all those new trucks, those things were a boatload of money.
Well, one.
You know, now we're at a point. No, excuse me. You want to get an 8-ton, and then the pickups. You want to shuffle all those around. Then you want to buy your loader. You know, when a loader breaks, they use hydraulics. Hydraulic lines are going to break. They are going to be. They're going to cost money. Okay, but you deal with it. You know, people make things last. I got a 12-year-old van, but you know what? It works. So you deal with it. And I think sometimes we're so, and Mr. O'Brien, this is directed at you. We got to keep up with the Joneses. I remember when we built the community center. And I remember sitting in that room with you, and you said, this is so much better than Peters Township. Well, you know what? Dang it, we ain't Peters Township. We're Bethel Park. I understand we have to compete and everything else, but there comes a point where you need to sit back and say, is it a want or a need? And right now, with this financial crisis that we're in, and we're going to be in this for a long time, folks, and they'll tell you that in the back, okay? We need to decide what is of value. Buying that loader, I was going to come here last month and oppose it strongly because I talked to the mechanic, and the guy said it's still good. But you're going to get a good resale value for it, and I quote that from the budget. If you're going to get a good resale value for something, why get rid of it? Why not keep it? Do the daily maintenance. Do the monthly maintenance. Don't let Johnny-come-lately drive around with it and run it up on roads. These people have to be competent. All I'm saying is we need to start thinking in a different type of format. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be like the city of Pittsburgh. We're going to have those problems. People on fixed incomes, what are they going to do? They're going to lose their homes. They're going to stop taking their meds. These are things we all need to think about. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for the 3 suggestions, because that's what we wanted. So now we'll check into those 3.
I asked you last time, and nobody called. And now you got my phone number, so you can. Have a good night.
Right.
David Ross, great answer. Everyone's looking for a cut. You spoke, Mr. O'Brien, previously about not coming up with $1,000 cuts or anything like that, correct? Past meetings?
Oh, many comments. We all talked about it, correct?
Right. I have a question. Why do we need to spend $40,000 for a quiet area and a pond at the community center?
Why not?
It's in the budget.
Well, it's been in the budget for years. We just haven't done it.
Maybe we should take it out then. Chief, I have a question for you. Bicycles. How many do we have? 5, I believe. 5?
I can't hear you. Speak up.
I'm sorry. Bicycles. How many do we have?
I think 5.
5. This year we're scheduled for $3,000 for bicycles. Okay.
Which we're not buying, by the way, which we've been budgeted for probably the last 5 to 7 years and we haven't bought them.
Okay. I think maybe we should forget the bicycles, maybe get a dog again. Canine unit would probably be better than a bike. Just an opinion. So, Mr. O'Brien, you said we are 1.2 million short, correct?
We were.
I'm sorry?
We were.
We were. Okay. And we have now what, 1.3?
1.3. 1.2 something.
Looks like he's crunching numbers. You spoke last time that we found 1.3 million?
Yeah, approximately 1.3 million.
Approximately, okay. And I think you also spoke last month of finding 40,000?
I don't recall what that's in reference to. The $1.3 million is the cumulative effect of our financial year-end results.
Okay.
So if I'm drawing a blank on the exact 40,000, but if I mentioned that, that's part of the $1.3 million total.
Now, this was through investments, you said. There's a return on some investments we had. That's okay.
Anything that I spoke about, the $1.3 million is in total. It's not 1.3 million and 40,000.
Okay. Then I guess
1.3 million is in general.
I apologize for
That's
that.
okay.
Council, you have a tough job. I don't want it. I don't think you guys want it right now either. Everyone here, if you haven't, by now you will get hit with Allegheny's assessment. So we got to bend over and smile and take it like big boys. We don't need it for Bethel Park. We're 1.2 short. We found 1.3. What's the math? Let's think about it. We're all big people. We all have to pay the piper. Yes, we cannot expect everything to stay status quo. Stuff does go up year by year. Everyone here understands that. Let's try to work on it harder, please. Thank you.
Any other discussion from council on this item under general policy and finance? Any additional items under general policy and finance for anybody?
One more comment, please.
Sure.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm David Carr, 5747 Kings School Road, Bethel Park. My heart goes out to you. You're getting hammered. It's not an easy job. And I appreciate what you're going through and listening. And there's always two sides of the coin, and you're kind of in the hot seat right now. But I think working together, we can come to terms for the betterment of all of our residents here. And I, too, would like to put my name and phone number before somebody as a management consultant. I'd be happy to give you some of my time. For example, the organization chart that was given to me about a month ago doesn't have some of the positions on it. And maybe we could get, at least to have the organization chart for the community, for example, the fine dispatchers was not on the organization chart. So some of the other positions I think are missing. So I too will give you my name and number. I can help you with the budget and organization, so I'll approach the bench and leave it to Mr. Allen. What I would like to say, it's not a lot of money, but it's about $32,000. It's 9 times 250 a month, and 1 at 350 a month. Now that comes to about $32,000. And before you say it's law that you get paid, it is not law, because the ordinance says councilmen may receive a stipend. May. And those people who have not been here, well, that's another story. I would suggest that you give up your monthly pay, and at least half of that go to our fine people who put their lives on the line every day, our policemen. And we look at their needs. And maybe they do need bicycles. Maybe they need new equipment. They are putting their lives on the line. You are not. So I would say, give up your salary, question the police chief. Chief, what do we need? What can we make your officers safer? And put some of that money to that man. That's what I have to say.
President, we have no further agenda items.
Okay, that's it.
We're done.
Okay.
Can I say one thing? Just one more thing. I just came here because I was curious, and I can see all the concern in the room here. My name is Ralph Busey. I live at 3300 Forest Road. If I had anything to do with $250, I'd find room in the budget to give you all a little more instead of taking off you. But I'm just confused about one thing. But before I say that, I've lived in Bethel Park 40 years, so I have the right to speak. 40 years is a long time. I'm semi-retired now, but, you know, I still get up at 6:30 in the morning. When I get up and I see those trucks out there when there's snow and the salt trucks are out there, it's a nice feeling. When I see the police drive around where I live, it's a great feeling. The streets are always being paved on a regular basis. I mean, I like Bethel Park, and I'm going to leave in a year because my home's too big, and we just want to move somewhere else. But my wife doesn't want to move. But I just want to say that this is probably the best place for me to be is in Bethel Park. I'm just confused about one thing: 1.4 million, and then you found 1.3 million, and you said the staff recommended we keep the budget the same. Is that what I heard?
Retain the ordinance that increases the...
Okay, so then I did understand, and I guess that some kind of explanation should come out of the staff then. Why would you keep it the same if you found some monies or some monies came in, which I don't understand. I mean, I'm fortunate. I can afford to pay my taxes, and that's not why I'm leaving. And I'd hate to lose anything because it's really swell being here, 40 years. And all you guys up there do a great job. Even you, Mr. Harrison. You got to have somebody up there to challenge what's going on. But, you guys all do a great job. I was here about 4 years ago, and I said to everybody, I'm a little nervous, you could tell. Why don't you smile more? I mean, this is not the end of the world, this budget thing. I mean, work together, and you guys will work it out. But what bothers me is the staff. If you got some money back there, even half the amount that you want to raise, something should happen. But I'm just hearing you just want to keep it the same. So hopefully you guys will change that. Thank you.
Mr. Allen? If I can just address that real quickly. Staff originally proposed a 1.25 mil increase. We negotiated that down, or were able to cut the budget to the point where we could do with 0.75. Staff only suggested that we still keep some increase in there. The memo that we got was to keep some increase in there, only because they originally suggested 1.25 to begin with. That doesn't mean we're going to keep an increase in there. It doesn't mean we're not. We still have to discuss that, and we'll vote on that in March, as it was said here before. But I think that's why, just to answer your question, they originally proposed a higher increase, so there are too many uncertainties in the water for 2013, or 2012 rather. Motion to adjourn? Actually, we don't need it.
We're done. Thank you.